Hello. So today we're going to go over the standard that we're going to be looking at for the next few weeks. It is Reading Literature 6.3, and the standard reads, describe how a particular story's or drama's plot unfolds in a series of episodes, as well as how the characters respond or change as the plot moves towards a resolution. And that sounds like a lot of big words. It might sound like a really big concept, but we're going to break it down into its parts and work our way through it. So there are 5 story elements, and we will learn to identify and describe those story elements. We need to know what the characters are, the setting, and what are the major events in a story, and then how to describe them. And if you remember, describe means to give more information. So we aren't going to just learn what these things are, but how to talk about these things. And then the last story element is the problem and solution. And so in stories, usually there's some kind of issue that the characters have to deal with, and that issue usually is resolved by the end of the story. And so we want to be able to identify that problem and solution as well as describe it. So let's jump into exactly what these story elements mean. The characters are the people or animals in a story. In lots of stories, there are people and their dogs, and we don't want to exclude those animals if they are substantial to the story. So we're going to learn how to identify who is a character in the story. The next story element is where the story actually takes place. This is the setting. And one thing I want you to remember is that the setting doesn't just have to be inside, like in your school or in your home. The story can also take place outside, like at the park, for instance, or even in the forest. The next story element is the plot. And right now we're going to talk about this just looking at the major events in a story. When you read stories, usually there's a beginning, middle, and end, and we're going to learn how to identify the beginning, middle, end, and see what are events that are important and what are events that maybe don't count as much. And then the last story element is just problem and solution. So, like I talked about earlier, in stories, a lot of times the characters face some sort of issue. There's trouble for them. And the solution is how that problem gets resolved. How do they solve the problem? How do they fix the issue? And so we're going to focus a lot on that. I look forward to delving into these with you all in the near future.